Let's talk about a pattern that so many people find themselves trapped in. You love someone, then you leave. Then you come back, then you leave again. It's hot, then it's cold, then it's confusing, and eventually it becomes exhausting. This is the cycle so many fearful avoidants find themselves stuck in. This roller coaster of intense connection followed by emotional distance, fear, and retreat. You might feel like you're fighting two different instincts inside you. One craves love deeply, the other runs from it the moment it feels too real. And you keep telling yourself, maybe next time it will be different. But deep down, you know it won't unless something changes. Here's the truth most people don't tell you. Breaking the cycle doesn't start with finding the right person. It starts with becoming the person who doesn't need chaos to feel chemistry. The person who doesn't need distance to feel safe. The person who's no longer addicted to the drama of leaving and returning just to feel wanted again. It's not easy. Patterns are comforting even when they're painful. But if you've ever asked yourself, why do I keep doing this? That question alone is a spark of self-awareness. And that spark is everything. You can break the cycle, but first you have to stop confusing fear with intuition. Stop labeling your anxiety as a sign that something's wrong with a relationship, when often it's just your nervous system reacting to intimacy. Learn to sit with discomfort. Learn to express a need before pulling away. Learn to stay even when your instinct says run. And above all, learn that love isn't meant to feel like a test you keep failing. Real love is consistent. And if you've never had that before, it will feel boring at first. But boring is just another word for peace when you've spent your life addicted to emotional whiplash. You deserve more than passion that comes with pain. You deserve presence, stability, a love that doesn't leave when things get quiet. So if you're a fearful avoidant and you're tired of the cycle, let this be your turning point. Not the next off before the on again, but the moment you choose to stop running and finally walk toward the love you've always wanted, but never let yourself keep. Fearful avoidants often live in a state of emotional contradiction. They deeply crave love, connection, and closeness, yet at the same time they are terrified of it. This creates a dynamic where the moment they begin to get what they want, true intimacy, they start to feel anxious, overwhelmed, or even suffocated. It's not because the relationship is bad, it's because closeness activates a part of them that associates vulnerability with danger. Maybe it was emotional inconsistency in childhood. Maybe it was betrayal, neglect, or abandonment in the past. Whatever the cause, somewhere along the line, they learned that getting too close means eventually getting hurt. This internal tug of war plays out in confusing ways. One moment they're all in, affectionate, invested, intensely connected. The next moment, they start picking the relationship apart, finding reasons it won't work, or feeling inexplicably irritable or shut down. They may suddenly need space, or say they're not ready, or feel like something's missing. It's not that they don't feel love. In fact, they often feel it intensely. But love comes with risk, and for the fearful avoidant, risk can feel unbearable. So they run, or they push their partner away, they self-sabotage. And then, once they're gone and the space feels safe again, the craving for connection returns, seizing moments. They remember the good moments, the bond, the laughter, the intimacy, and they come back. Not because they're manipulative or playing games, but because they genuinely feel drawn back to love. The problem is, this cycle becomes a loop: connection, fear, withdrawal, regret, reconnection, on again, off again and again. This pattern isn't about being undecided or emotionally unstable. It's about survival instincts clashing with emotional desires. Fearful avoidants are not confused about wanting love. They're confused about how to feel safe in it. And without awareness of this dynamic, they may believe every time they pull away, it's because the partner is wrong for them. They might tell themselves, it just didn't feel right, or my gut says this isn't it. when what they're really feeling is panic in response to closeness. Until that fear is named and addressed, it continues to drive behavior from the background. And to anyone on the outside, especially the person dating them, it looks like inconsistency, emotional hot and cold, or even manipulation. But inside the fearful avoidant, it's a storm of opposing needs, a deep hunger for love colliding with a deep fear of being hurt by it. It's exhausting, it's confusing, and without intentional healing, it repeats. Patterns can be incredibly seductive, even when they cause pain. For fearful avoidants, the on-again, off-again relationship cycle often becomes a familiar rhythm, a story they know how to play out. There's comfort in the repetition, even if it leaves them emotionally depleted. That's the confusing part. Something that hurts can still feel safe, simply because it's what they're used to. The highs and lows, the tension and release, the distance and the reunion, it starts to feel like love. But it's not love. It's a pattern. Emotional intensity, especially when it comes in waves, can be mistaken for passion. The adrenaline of the fight, the longing during separation, and the euphoric relief of reconnecting, it mimics romantic excitement. But what it actually builds is emotional dependency on the drama itself. It becomes less about the person and more about the rush of reconnection. It's not stability they're drawn to, it's the familiar thrill of fixing, chasing, or being chased. And over time, this creates a loop that's hard to recognize and even harder to escape. Part of what keeps this cycle alive is the belief that real love is supposed to feel intense all the time. So when things feel calm, even healthy, fearful avoidants may interpret that calm as boredom or disconnection. They start to feel restless. They begin looking for flaws or wondering if something is wrong. That internal discomfort isn't because the relationship lacks love. It's because their nervous system has been conditioned to respond to chaos. Peace feels foreign. Stability feels suspicious. The pattern also becomes reinforced by emotional memories. After every breakup, the good moments become exaggerated in the mind. The bad parts fade, and the brain highlights what was lost. This makes the return feel inevitable, even necessary. There's a sense of unfinished business, of potential still left unexplored. So the cycle repeats, driven by a mixture of nostalgia, fear, and the belief that maybe this time it will work, if only they try harder, or change, or do something different. But the truth is, no matter how many times you go back, the cycle will stay the same unless the internal pattern changes. The surface reasons, timing, miscommunication, personal growth might shift, but the dynamic underneath remains intact. The drama, the distance, the reattachment, it all plays out like a script, one both people know too well. And unless that script is rewritten, the actors may change, but the story won't. The comfort of pain becomes the trap, and escaping it requires recognizing that not all intensity is love, and not all comfort is growth. When someone is caught in the cycle of on-again, off-again relationships, it's easy to believe that the solution lies in finding the right person. That once the perfect partner shows up, someone more patient, more loving, more stable, everything will fall into place. But for fearful avoidants, the pattern doesn't magically disappear with a better match. The common thread in every relationship is themselves. And until they address the internal beliefs and fears driving their behavior, they'll carry those same issues into every new connection. The cycle isn't about the wrong partner. It's about unhealed wounds. Fearful avoidants often hold conflicting beliefs about love, that it's something they deeply want, but also something they don't trust. They might fear being abandoned or engulfed, and without realizing it, they try to protect themselves by keeping love at arm's length. Even when their partner is consistent and kind, they may still find themselves pulling away, testing the bond, or sabotaging it altogether. And when things fall apart, the instinct is often to blame compatibility or timing, not the unresolved fears inside. Self-awareness is the first step toward breaking the cycle. It requires looking inward instead of outward, asking not, why do they always leave? But why do I keep choosing relationships that feel unsafe once they get real? This kind of reflection can be uncomfortable. It means confronting patterns, questioning long-held beliefs, and being honest about one's role in the dynamic. But it's also incredibly freeing, because once someone realizes they're not just a victim of bad luck or failed relationships, they can begin to change the narrative. Healing for fearful avoidance doesn't mean becoming perfect or fearless. It means learning to stay present when discomfort arises instead of fleeing. It means learning to express vulnerability instead of shutting down. And it means choosing to connect even when old instincts say to run. These changes can't be outsourced to a partner, no matter how understanding or supportive someone else may be. The work of emotional regulation, trust building, and self-reflection has to come from within. At its core, breaking the cycle means realizing that healing precedes the healthy relationship, not the other way around. A secure connection can support healing, but it can't replace it. Waiting for someone else to fix the pattern only delays the growth. Real transformation happens when a person decides to take ownership of their emotional world and stops looking for the right person to rescue them from their own fears. For someone used to emotional turbulence, calm can feel unnatural. When a fearful avoidant begins to experience a relationship that's steady and consistent, they may find themselves questioning it. They wonder why there aren't intense highs and lows. They might ask, where's the spark? Or worry that they don't feel as passionate as they did in past relationships. But what they're really feeling is the absence of anxiety. And to a nervous system conditioned for chaos, peace can be misread as boredom. Many people confuse emotional intensity with love. The butterflies, the uncertainty, the constant wondering how the other person feels. Those things can feel like chemistry, but in reality, they're often symptoms of insecurity. A connection that keeps you guessing activates your attachment system. It keeps you hooked because your brain is trying to resolve the inconsistency. When you finally get a moment of closeness after distance, it feels euphoric. Not because it's healthy, but because it relieves tension. That's not passion, that's relief. A healthy relationship doesn't trigger that same roller coaster. It feels safe, predictable, grounded. You know where you stand. You don't have to analyze every text or question whether your feelings are being returned. But for fearful avoidance, that kind of stability can feel suspicious. It lacks the adrenaline. It lacks the familiar pattern of push and pull. So they might start to create distance, provoke conflict, or question their feelings, not because anything is wrong, but because they're uncomfortable with the unfamiliar. This is where self-awareness becomes critical. Recognizing that calm isn't the absence of love, it's the space where real love can grow. Love doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to be earned through emotional labor. It's not measured by how hard you fight for it or how painful it feels to lose. True connection is found in the everyday moments, shared jokes, consistent care, emotional safety. Part of healing from fearful avoidant patterns means reprogramming what your body associates with connection. It means learning to trust calm, to stop equating unpredictability with depth. And to understand that consistency isn't boring, it's what allows love to deepen over time. There's beauty in knowing someone will show up. There's passion in being able to fully relax with another person. But that kind of love only becomes accessible when you stop chasing emotional intensity and start allowing emotional safety to feel like home. It's not about settling, It's about unlearning the idea that chaos is romantic. The cycle of on again, off again relationships can feel impossible to escape when you're stuck inside it. For fearful avoidants who constantly wrestle with the desire for intimacy and the fear of it, this loop becomes a survival mechanism. It offers the illusion of control. When closeness gets too overwhelming, you leave. When distance becomes too painful, you return. But the truth is, you're not in control at all. The pattern is. Breaking this cycle begins with making a conscious choice to stop running. It doesn't happen by accident or with time alone. It happens when you become deeply aware of your own emotional habits and commit to responding differently, even when it's uncomfortable. This means staying when your instincts scream to leave. It means voicing your fears instead of withdrawing. It means choosing presence over protection. Many people trapped in this loop hope things will change naturally, that a new relationship will feel different, or that time apart will magically heal what went wrong. But real change doesn't come from time or new partners. It comes from changing the way you relate to yourself. When you start acknowledging your fears instead of acting on them, you create space to build something real. Fear doesn't go away overnight, but it loses power when it's named. The decision to stay emotionally present is not easy. There will be moments where you feel the urge to push someone away for no clear reason. Moments where you feel numb and wonder if you're with the wrong person. Moments where peace feels flat and you're tempted to create chaos just to feel something again. These are the turning points, the places where the old pattern wants to repeat. But choosing differently, even once, begins to break the cycle. This kind of growth takes time and support. You may need therapy, grounding practices, journaling, or simply the space to reflect before reacting. But the breakthrough isn't just in staying in a relationship, it's in staying with yourself. Learning to be with your discomfort rather than running from it is one of the most powerful forms of emotional maturity. When you stop letting fear make your decisions, you finally open the door to real love. Not the kind that's based on chasing and retreating, but the kind that feels steady, kind, and honest. The kind of love that doesn't rely on the drama of leaving and returning, but instead builds something lasting by simply choosing to stay again and again. So if you're someone who recognizes yourself in this pattern, if you felt torn between wanting love and running from it, know this: there is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not doomed to repeat the same story forever. You've just been trying to protect yourself the best way you knew how. But now you get to choose a new way, one where love doesn't have to be a battlefield, one where peace doesn't feel like a threat, one where you don't have to keep chasing connection through chaos. You can stop trying to earn love by surviving pain and start allowing love to come from a place of calm, truth, and safety. Breaking this cycle doesn't happen in one grand decision. It happens in small, brave moments. When you pause instead of pulling away, when you speak instead of shutting down, when you stay even when every part of you wants to run. And if you can do that, if you can hold space for your fear without letting it drive the car, you'll discover something life-changing, that real love doesn't ask you to betray yourself. It invites you to come home to yourself. Thank you for listening, for being open, and for having the courage to look at your patterns instead of hiding from them. That's where real transformation begins. Take care of your heart. Be patient with your process. And never forget, love that lasts doesn't come from running in circles. It comes from choosing to stop and stand still with someone, especially yourself. Thank you.